Hi, everybody. Will here with this week's Insider Report brought to you by Canine Chronicle TV and Pro Plan. This week, we're going to talk to Michelle Yeadon, professional handler, boxer breeder, and she's going to talk about the impact to breeders on this from the CDC ruling. So sit back and relax and maybe take notes. Hi, everybody. Will here with some more insider report on this CDC ruling. I've got Michelle Yeadon with me, and she's a professional handler. Obviously, we all know that. She's also a breeder of Mephisto boxers, lots of accolades there. She has some insight. I wanted to get a breeder's perspective of it, so here I am with Michelle, and Michelle's going to let us know what she knows and thinks of the whole thing. Hi, Michelle.
Hi. I don't know how much I know, but we know what we have all read with the CDC and what they sent out. And when it comes to most of the dog show public, I think that's what most of us are talking about, right?
Yes, it sure is.
Exactly. And it affects so many breeders in different ways. It affects handlers, of course. It'll be much more difficult to have a rig full of dogs to cross. The border has been making us handlers jump through the hoops the last couple years.
Have they really? Are you around out in BC? And
Absolutely. I have to go through the commercial side now.
really?
Where I have to pay for a transponder fee. I have to fill out a full manifest of every dog I have in my rig.
See, I do that for my transporting company,
Yeah.
but as far as I know, the handlers in my area are not doing that. I know they are.
No, and I think it's about 2 years now that I have been going through that way, and it's definitely a learning process. I would still say 50% of the time I still get sent in, and I just hope it's somebody I already had behind that counter. That because the last
someone
time
trying to prove themselves.
that's right, and because the last time I went down for driving to ABC to Indianapolis, luckily the guy behind the counter was like, "Oh, I remember you."
How
Right?
could they
And
forget
so,
you? Come on.
yeah. And each time they're teaching me new rules on how to make it easier for me to come across for the next time.
Wow.
So, but I know certain handlers here still that they don't go through the commercial side because they've had nothing but problems.
Yeah.
They've been pulled in for hours and sent back. One of the handlers out west had been sent.
I haven't heard of any local handlers that have used the commercial side or even attempted the commercial side.
No, it's definitely a learning process, and that's the only way I go across now is that way. Unless, of course, I go down with just one dog, and it's
Now with the manifest,
Mhm.
and you're doing it through the commercial side. I wonder how much if that's going to be any different for you with this new CDC ruling.
That also is crossing my mind. I think the
Will
next
it be
time
easier? Will it be harder? Will it be?
well, I'm sure it'll be harder. I think the next time I cross, I might be just personal. I might just have one or two boxers and not a rig of clients' dogs. But again, that's going to be a learning process where we all have to figure that out. I'm okay with that. We'll have to sign them up on this. The picture of the dog and that the rabies has to match the microchip. I'm okay with all of that. That we need a health certificate. It's no different if we fly internationally. I'm used to all of that. I think, you just have to be uber organized, think ahead, just, plan and organize. The biggest thing about the new CDC rule that affects me as a breeder is, of course, nothing under 6 months of age can go into the United States. So that is limiting, of course, selling our dogs to the U.S., right?
Yeah, that's a lot to ask you to keep that puppy till he's 6 months old.
It's a lot, and it will cost a lot more too
Oh,
if I have to do that, right? I'm not doing that for free. Um, but and then of course I think the biggest issue that's affecting us in boxers, Dobermans, is the cropping because we cannot crop in BC. The veterinarians cannot crop in BC, so we've had honestly the luxury to be able to cross into Washington. It's about 2 hours from us. And we have a wonderful cropper in Washington that's been cropping for us. We have been jumping through hoops, though, for I would say about 15 years in cropping on the West Coast, because we used to have a wonderful vet here that cropped for all of us and then retired. So then we turned to Alberta. And again, great, a great vet out there was cropping for us. Then, of course, they were now disallowed from cropping.
sure.
Right? Oh, and then COVID. We had COVID as well. We had to hire a transporter to, cross with our puppies. Took 5 minutes, and then somebody on the other side, finished that for us. But it's I don't know how we're gonna to beat this one though, because the only province that still crops is now Ontario.
Ontario, and they're working hard to stop us.
That's
So
right.
yeah, it's going to be difficult. Is there any other issues as a breeder you find with this new rule? Can you think of anything else is gonna? I'm sure things are gonna pop up and.
Oh, I am sure. And I think, when you read the fine print of that, people are arguing that it's only certain areas with the rabies that they're not going to enforce it.
I've
But
heard certain things of that too, and certain. I've also heard some skirmishes between border guards that they don't want to do that.
exactly. And what I've always said too, because what we do is, it's not commonplace to, the guy in the booth, right? Which you pull up to, and you try to tell them what you're doing and explain to what and they can't help it. They're pessimistic. They think instantly you're trying to sell your puppies, and honestly, it's whether or not they believe you.
Right. Yeah. The biggest issue I had as a handler was if I had any American clients.
Absolutely, yes.
Other than that, it was pretty good.
Mhm.
But I'll tell you, every time I pulled that truck up to your stomach was in knots, just waiting to see who you got. So
Exactly. And you're not doing anything wrong. You're
they
doing
make
your
you feel like a
job.
criminal sometime, though.
Exactly. You're doing your job. I always make sure to have a rabies certificate, a copy of the CKC papers, and a letter from every client giving me permission to take their
Right.
dog out of the country.
And I
So
always had my dog show IDs too, to prove to them that's where I was going. So.
exactly. Yeah. Me too. Me too. And I've said too, I'm like, Google me. Right? Just Google me. I'll pop up. So, um, but yeah, I think we're all in limbo until August 1st, and it'll take the first of us to go across
And just
and
to see what happens. It's
exactly. Yeah.
and I'm hoping of the hopes that something will be worked out between the two kennel clubs, AKC and CKC, and
Yeah.
they can come to some understanding with the CDC because it's affecting them as well.
Exactly. And I think, well, they're trying to say that the rescues that are flying in don't have to go through what we're being forced to go through, which I
Then
find.
what is it for then? I thought it was
Exactly.
mostly for the rescues to stop
Yes.
them from getting in, and because some of them came in that weren't medically cleared.
Exactly. And, it's not as though the border is huge, right? Our two countries border each other for thousands and thousands of miles. So, you can't stop any sick animal from crossing on its own.
That's
So,
right. There goes a raccoon. Put the lights on. Get it. Yeah.
exactly. Oh, I think it's foaming, right? And that's the thing. We just all have to wait and hold our breath. But it definitely is. It's going to affect sales. And people haven't talked about the snowbirds much. I wonder how,
Oh, I had a conversation with one today, and he's
right?
he's really worried about it. So
Exactly. How can you stop these normal individuals from just taking their pet, to, their place where they winter? And they
and I
could
guess
very
they're
well
not
own that
necessarily
property.
stopping them. They're just making them do paperwork. Even if they can come up with some sort of passport for each one of these dogs, it'd be
Oh,
easier.
exactly. We do paperwork all the time for
Yeah.
what we do. That's just, like I said, you just have to be a little bit more organized and have, your ducks in a row before you cross. But the 6 month issue, that's because I remember the last time they enforced it, it was 4 months,
Yeah.
right? But you could cross with anything under 4 months because you, of course, shouldn't give a rabies shot before then. So that I find that that was okay. We dealt with that. But
Mhm.
6 months definitely makes it
Oh, it's going
that
to
much.
affect a lot of people, and I think they've underestimated how many Canadians like to show their dogs down there and breed down there.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Yeah.
and like I know our border shows, Syracuse, Niagara Falls, and whatnot, their economy is boosted by those shows.
Oh,
Not
absolutely.
just the show
Ask them.
themselves, the hotels, the restaurants, everything.
That's right. Yeah. No, the shows that are closer to us, Puyallup and Portland, of course, West Coast. Yeah, there's a large percentage of Canadians that are going down because we want to show our dogs in the United States, right?
No, of course we all
Yeah.
do. We all like to go down there and compete, but it's also like I just sent a beagle down to be
Mhm.
he's being used as stud now because it's going to be easier get it done now than do it later. So
I'm doing the exact same thing, trying to squeeze in some US shows with the dogs that need a couple singles or a major, and yeah, trying to get them done as quick as possible.
yeah, well,
I know.
I don't know. Any advice you want to give people? Just stay patient and
Oh, I don't know. It's I just talking to my mom the other day. Boxers they're not a easy breed to breed at the best of times,
right.
but people are making it harder and harder. You cannot fly boxers anymore. WestJet has said no more brachycephalic breeds. There's a 3 day drive to Indianapolis. It's not easy.
Right.
I'm not getting any younger. Right? None of us
Oh,
are.
it's frightening.
No, and I'm not ready to stop working.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it. I understand.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Michelle. Well, I
All right.
really appreciate your time, and
Of
I'm
course,
people will.
we're all up in arms about it, but we
And
can.
if you hear anything before me, would you please drop me a line and we'll do this again? So,
Oh, absolutely,
all
absolutely.
right.
Yeah. Okay. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
You
Okay.
too. Thank you, Michelle. Very informative. And I promise to have you back or whoever back to talk more about the CDC ruling and see how it goes. And until next time.